All right, there we go. If I hit the right button, we can get the thing going like it's supposed to today. Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Craig, and you are listening to the Monday version of Let Us Reason Together. I have missed you all for the last couple weeks. We have been doing a major move of our congregation here in Amarillo, Texas, where we had a rent increase over 4 times what we were paying, and so we had to move. We had a month to do it, and it took every bit of time of being 8 years in this one location to move it all into another location. Now we're going to have to sort through the mess and all of that sort of stuff and get it all ready to go. But hey, praise y'all. We're getting it done, and he's given us the strength to do that. And so, but thank you for your patience, and thank you for coming back and joining us today on Let Us Reason Together. And you can pick it up here. If you listen to it, we want you to give us a thumbs up and let's set those algorithms so that we can get more people listening in. So anyway, today is, let me go ahead and change my screen here. Today is, what day is it? It is Monday, October 7th, 2019. I have to read it because it's the brain function issue right now because of such a busy month. But it is the 8th day of the 7th month. Can you believe it? It's already the 7th month. On the Hebrew calendar. It is on another calendar, it's the first month, but it is the 7th month, or the month of Tishri, as some people call it. It is in the Hebrew year 5780. Yeah, since the last time I was here, we've changed the number from 5779 to 5780. But this is where we as we follow along with Isaiah 118, we say, "Come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are scarlet, they will be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool." It's where we sit down, reason out current events, cultural shifts, and of course, this week's Torah portion. And we can either push back or push through. Nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. And without a little heat and a good midrash, how will our hearts ever get soft and moldable enough to be transformed in the way that the Spirit, the Ruach, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way? And that's what we've got. We've got some fun. We have the Torah portion. We've got the Brit Hadashah, and I have a current event that everyone needs to stay and listen to because some major things are going on in our nation. And I want you to hear it, and let's have a discussion about it today. Now, before I go on and talk about some weird and quirky celebrations that are going on today, joining me today from the great nation of Canada, which has been signified by the maple leaf, Rabbi Darryl Weinberg. Come on down. I had to say that.
That was quite an introduction. Wow.
That's right. You know, did you ever watch The Price is Right?
Oh, far too often.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I loved that show. I was like, I want to watch The Price is Right. I can never guess those prices. I don't know why. Maybe because I was a kid, but it was good. It was really good. Of course, I only watched it during a little time that we had vacation coming back from Norway. And, what do you do at grandparents' house sometimes during the day when nothing's going on? But watch The Price is Right. Good morning, Darryl.
Good morning.
And I have from the great state of North Carolina, Mr. Mark David Smith. He's resetting up. What a perfect timing.
It fall down, go boom.
It did. It really did. But you can see it just.
I'm okay, man. I'm okay.
All right.
There. Okay. Well, you kind of mess this thing up.
And you notice the Messianic lambradio.com on the t-shirt. So I just wanted everybody to know that. And SpongeBob. So that. Mark, you got to tell me the story. What's the deal with SpongeBob?
You mean Square Bob Sponge Pants?
Yeah, Square Bob. Yeah, whatever. Yeah,
Square Bob Sponge Pants.
Yeah.
What's the story with him?
Yeah.
Well, he sails the seas. Oh, this got all knocked over too. So, he sails the seas, and it's SpongeBob. It's Square Bob Sponge Pants. and Smigglesworth or whatever his name is.
Hey, has SpongeBob SquarePants ever met the Kraken?
Kraken.
Okay. All right. He has now.
He is now.
That was a big lobster, though. That wasn't the Kraken.
Oh, Kraken?
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mark. Thank you. I just want everybody to have that great introduction about, our illustrious leader from North Carolina.
Yeah. Hello.
Hey,
illustrious. I'm illustrious. Don't know about the leader part though, but I am illustrious.
That is true.
So, so how can I help you?
Well, hey, so we got some weird and quirky celebrations today as we launch into this version of Let Us Reason Together. And so I want to I'm going to lay it out. I'm just going to lay it out. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is what the internet says is being celebrated today, right? Failed Affair Day.
It's failed
Affair Day. Yeah, it's Failed Affair Day. Who would celebrate? I don't get that. I don't have a grid for that. Okay, here's the next thing. World Shining Bright Day. It's Self-Admiration Day. So Mark, you're laughing. All right, so Self-Admiration Day, is that when we tell everybody how good we are, or we look in the mirror and say,
I thought that was every day. That's what Darryl told me.
Darryl?
It is. Darryl told me every day is Self-Admiration Day.
So how does that fit in the biblical grid? Are we supposed to do that? I don't know.
Hey, under the mighty hand of God.
Right.
He's the rabbi.
There's the rabbi. He's got the word for the day. How about this one? Your Merits and Talents Appreciation Day. So you're at Self-Admiring Day. Then you just let everybody, you just feel good about your merits and talents and appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
Let everybody else appreciate your own, right? So, okay. How about this? National Lollipop Day. National Lollipop.
That one we can go with.
All right. So how about this?
That's positive.
It's positive. How about this positive part of the day? Bathtub Day.
Take a shower in it. All right. Go ahead.
And then, okay. And now I'm doing this, and actually I probably do this every day. Well, except when I wear a red shirt. But it's Blue Shirt Day. It's Blue Shirt Day. Blue Shirt Day. And did you know that that's a registered trademark? It's a registered trademark to have Blue Shirt Day. Someone registered this day as Blue Shirt Day. And get this one, You Matter to Me Day, as you self-admire yourself. You Matter to Me Day, and that's trademarked. You Matter to Me Day.
But not as much as I mattered to me.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's when you say you matter to me when you're looking in the mirror.
There you go. That's right. So that's what's happened. The American education system is all about You Matter to Me Day, and I self-admire, and I merit, and my merits and talents are appreciated every single day, and everybody gets an award. Everybody does. And so one last thing I want to say about this month that we're in, it's month of free thought. It's free. My thoughts are free to you.
Wow. When we get our award, is Darryl allowed to stick it on the wall behind him, maybe above the lamp, and turn the lamp on so that it brightens it all up? Can Darryl do that?
I'm trying to point up there.
Yeah, right up there. Right.
Yeah.
Over
right.
There.
I can't get
right there.
Yeah, right there. Where that
right there.
Okay.
We made Darryl smile.
Darryl,
that's our whole goal.
That's like he likes it, Mikey.
Remember,
all right. How about a positive quote of the day for Monday, October the 7th? Begin to act from your dominion. Declare the truth by telling yourself that there is nothing to be afraid of. that you no longer entertain any images of fear. That's Ernest Holmes. I think you could probably say there's a biblical concept in that.
Could probably say it.
Probably say that. How about funny quote of the day? So you have to laugh. Darryl, laugh. This is time for you to laugh. Okay. After I say it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Sandy is not here to give me that thing. So
by the way, where is Sandy?
Sandy is working.
The slacker. Yes. From what I have understood so far is that Sandy put everything off. She's been sitting around with her leg up, eating bonbons and watching Green Acres, putting all this work off until today, and then is doing all 6 days worth of work today. That's the way I understand it.
You know, because she's within hearing range, I'm going to withhold my comments.
Hi, Sandy.
Are there any
Mark?
Slacker?
Are there any projectiles within her reach?
Yes. She's got a cat on her, so watch out.
A catapult.
That's a raccoon.
There you go.
They like everybody think they're cats, but they have raccoons.
By the way, it's one of the things I read about the month. It's like Black Cat Appreciation Month, and we've got one of those. A panther, little black panther cat. Okay. Funny quote of the day. Let's get on with it. No man is truly married until he understands every word his wife is not saying.
Yeah, that is a true fact. But it only takes like 2.5 days to figure that out. So
there are 4 words that every man must learn. Oh, yeah, right. Sorry.
That's it. Very good, brother. That's very true. Very, very true.
And you can mix them up. You can use different inflections. But as long as you got those 4 down, you'll be okay.
You know, it's universal. And since we don't have any women with us on the show right now, we can really talk about this stuff without harassment. So just
wait, hold up.
or correction.
Sandy's within hearing range. And everybody in the chat room is a woman. So, it's like.
Satcha's there.
Who is?
Satcha.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
We're
we got some
sorry, Satcha. I'm sorry.
We got some testosterone there in the chat room with this today. But, it's universal. That is truly universal. There's not one nation that's unaffected. So it's just as Brad would say, the birds and the bees and okay. All right. So the funny quote of the day, we did that. Love quote of the day. So, okay, I put this in for the women so I can stay on the good side. Right. All right. Okay. The magic words for a great relationship are, I love you just the way you are. From Jonathan Lockwood Huey. I think there's a song by the Piano Man guy.
Billy
Joel. I love you just the way you are. Okay. All right. I'm not going to sing that one. Here's the verse of the day, John 6:35 from the Brit Hadashah. And it is, Yeshua said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will not hunger, and he who believes in me will never thirst. I like that. How about what happened on this day in history? In 2001, y'all go back 2001, October the 7th, big deal. This is a big deal because it's continuing until this very day. The U.S. invasion of Afghanistan starts with an air assault and covert operations on the ground. Yep, on this day in history, we're still in Afghanistan. President Trump is doing his best to try to get us out of Afghanistan, and we need to pray. We need to pray. We don't need to be there. How about this, in my opinion? In 1714, this is a thought that everybody needs to know about. This happened in Alkmaar, Netherlands. Everybody knows the great city of Alkmaar. Well, the people riot due to beer tax. I just thought that was really significant, that in Alkmaar they rioted due to a beer tax.
Beer tax.
You can put that one on the shelf.
It's a beer tax.
Yeah.
What was that, Darryl? I missed
it. It's not a like the Boston Tea Party. This time it's a beer tax.
Oh.
Yeah, 1714. You know, well, if you think about it, well, never mind. All right. I was thinking there was 100 years before that. There were people that were there. The Puritans were actually in the Netherlands preparing for a move to America. So in 1965, this is the last one I have for what happened on this day in history. A 50-mile-an-hour gust helps Robert Matera. Okay, do you know who he is? Robert?
Sure. Everybody knows.
He was a golfer, pro golfer, I think. And it helped him ace a 50-mile-an-hour gust, helped him ace a 447-yard 10th hole at Miracle Hills in Omaha, Nebraska, to score the world's longest straight hole-in-one.
It was a 50-mile-an-hour gust, and that was proclaimed by all his competition. Not that he was good enough to do it, but it was that 50-mile-an-hour gust that won the competition. I get it. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So it went down in the record, but I don't know if he's a pro golfer. I don't know if maybe it's just a regular Joe.
He is. He's a pro golfer.
Was he? Okay. All right. So, but 447 yards. I just thought that was amazing. Hole in one. Boom. 1965. It's never been done since, probably. How about this?
Darryl does that on a bad day of golf, don't you, Darryl?
Yeah. Hit a 450-yard. Yeah. Sometimes.
Darryl uses those bright orange golf balls in Canada because that's the only way you can see them in the snow.
That's right.
If you want to play golf, just kidding. You guys do get some melted days out there. Okay, how about birthdays today?
There now.
What was that?
It's only 3 feet thick out there right now.
Oh, are you serious? Okay.
Hey, we'd buy it. You know, we're down here in the Netherlands. You know, the lower lands. Down in the lowlands, you know, we would buy it, Darryl. So
we would.
Don't ask him if that's real or not. Let's just accept it. Darryl said it. Rabbis don't lie.
No, they speak in parables sometimes too. So,
well, even though God did give rabbis the ability to lie anytime they want, it is in Scripture. God said, "Speak of things that be not as though they were." So that actually gives them the right to just lie whenever they want to.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh,
thanks,
come on.
All right. Let's famous birthdays today. Heinrich Himmler. Well, it's maybe an infamous birthday. Heinrich Himmler. It would be his birthday if he were still alive.
Pro golfer.
He would. Yeah. He was a leading Nazi pro golfer and the Reichsfuhrer of the SS. I don't know about the golfer part, but anyway, it's his birthday today. And how did he die? He committed suicide by cyanide poisoning before being captured by Allied forces. So, you know, kind of an infamous kind of guy. Y'all can look it up on your own. And another guy that's actually still alive. It's his birthday today. He is 66 years old, and that is Vladimir Putin. Putin.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
This today is his birthday, and he's 66.
He's 66 years old.
Wow, we were the same age for about a month.
What?
How interesting,
man! Do y'all connect on Facebook?
No, man. No. You know, we had doctrinal differences, and we just I told him to back off, and he wouldn't. And
he was pre-trib, huh?
Well, you know, that'll do it. But yeah.
So it says here, it says, why famous? Putin has been in his second term as the president of Russia since 2012, having served a previous term from 2008, where in that little gap, Dmitry Medvedev was the president, where Barack Obama said on the stage, says, I can do more after I win my second term. So And he got caught on mic saying that. So, and then it says, while this rule in Russia has seen the economy, general living standards, and levels of law and order improve drastically since he took office after the economic collapse of the 1990s, he has been criticized domestically and abroad for his increasingly authoritarian rule, his intervention in Ukraine, and for perceived levels of corruption in the Russian government. So, his birthplace, Leningrad, Russia, and he has actually, from what I understand, according to Pastor Paul Begley, has been out of the country for multiple months. He's been in different nations. He hasn't been in Russia because they're speculating because of the concern of assassination and overthrow. So he's been out of the country during this time.
So how is Pastor Paul these days?
Paul Begley, I just,
is Pastor Paul?
I pick up.
All right.
He seems to be okay. Actually, you know what? He's actually doing better than he was. He had some type of infection going on in his eye and his ears and stuff. Doing better.
I'm going to go see Rod Parsley this Thursday.
Are you?
Yep, yeah. I am. Sure
Okay.
am.
All right. Okay.
All right. Wild man.
He is a wild man.
He is a wild man. I haven't seen him in years, so it's going to be fun.
So if you haven't been laughing yet, we got the lighter side jump starting our brain for some wit for the day and twist our brain, points to ponder, and some very funny tales. So this is funny. Darryl is funny. Okay. Of weird people. You couldn't make this up. All right. Number one, police in Wichita, Kansas arrested a 22-year-old man in an airport hotel after he tried to pass two $16 bills.
16
$16 bills.
He tried to pass them.
Yeah.
I passed a $5 bill one time, and man, it was all like.
Okay. Well, I hope it came out okay. All right. How about this? Number two, a man in Johannesburg, South Africa. You can't make this up. Shot his 49-year-old friend in the face. Wait for it.
Yeah.
Wait for it. He shot his 49-year-old friend in the face, seriously wounding him while the two practiced shooting beer cans off of each other's head.
It's been a long time since I've done that.
That's the candidate for the Darwin Award.
Mark, did I just hear you? It's been a long time since you've done that.
Right. Yeah. What about it? You gotta remember, I come from Southeast Kansas, man. That's what else you do. That's what you do on a Sunday afternoon. And they're empty beer cans, though. Anybody that shoots a full unopened beer can is eliminated from the competition. That's all there is to it.
All right,
and you can't use a shotgun. You have to use either a rifle, and you can't use what are those things where you can look through it? No
scope.
No scope. You can't use a scope, but you can use a rifle or a handgun. No sawed-off shotguns.
Okay.
That when you're shooting a beer can off somebody's head, it just ain't right, man. It just ain't right.
No laser target things. Can't do that either.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. So here's the next one. A company trying to continue its 5-year perfect safety record showed its workers a film aimed at encouraging the use of safety goggles on the job. According to Industrial Machinery News, the film's depiction of gory industrial accidents was so graphic that 25 workers suffered minor injuries in the rush. Can't make this up. In the rush to leave the screening room, 13 others fainted, and one man required 7 stitches after he cut his head falling off a chair while watching the film.
Wow. Where can I get a hold of that film?
Yeah.
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah, we can.
You might be. What was the name of it again?
Okay, so it's a safety film on using safety goggles. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway.
All right. Okay, how about this one? The Chico, California. Remember this name, Chico, California. And remember the Chico, California City Council. What did they do? Well, they enacted a ban on nuclear weapons. Yep, no nuclear weapons in Chico, California, because setting a $500 fine for anyone detonating one within city limits.
That's a pretty steep price for detonating a nuclear warhead.
Yeah, that's the truth. Chico, California. Okay, and one last one before we move on. And it's a bus carrying 5 passengers was hit by a car in St. Louis, Missouri. But by the time police arrived on the scene, 14 pedestrians had boarded the bus and had begun to complain of whiplash injuries and back pain. And I'm telling you, being in the insurance business for 25 years, that is common. It is common. So there you go. I'll have more next time we get together because that's just 5. I got 5 more. So you want to come back and listen to the Monday edition. By the way, those who have joined us, give us a thumbs up. Appreciate it. And we're ready to jump into the first segment or the next segment of our time today. And Darryl, you got the Torah portion?
It does.
Okay.
It does. We are actually in the last Torah portion of the year. And this covers an absolutely amazing passage of scripture in Deuteronomy 32. It's the Song of Moses. And there's one particular verse, and you can almost skip right by it. But if you go down to verse 8, it says, when the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of man, he set the boundaries of the peoples. And the New American Standard says, according to the number of sons of Israel. But if you translate from the Hebrew, it's actually the sons of God. And this is a very controversial passage because when it says that this is the sons of God, what it's saying, and Michael Heiser, who is he's got his doctorate in Hebrew studies, he wrote a book called The Unseen Realm. And in that, the whole premise, and as a matter of fact, his entire ministry is based on Psalm 82, which where God says that famous quote that Yeshua uses, where he says, "You are gods, but you will die as men." And it's really speaking to the angels. And so what this does is that this really messes up a paradigm for a lot of people. Because in the Hebrew, it's saying that there are actually other gods. There are other Elohim. And there are many beings that are called Elohim in the scriptures, but there's only one Yahweh. And so the other Elohim. So Elohim doesn't necessarily mean God himself, but it means a divine being. And so what it's speaking about in Psalm 82, and then this one too, the sons of God, it's talking about angelic forces. And in this particular case, from Psalm 82, it's talking about the ones who rebelled. So in Deuteronomy 32, where Moses says that God divided the nations amongst the sons of God, what it's saying is that the other nations rejected the one true God. And so he gave them over to the desires of their heart and allowed them to be ruled by these other divine beings, these angels. Now, we're not entirely sure as to when the fall of these angels happened, whether it was before or after God gave them and divvied them up. But it says in Deuteronomy 32 that he kept Israel for himself, but the other nations he allowed to be ruled by these wicked angels. And so in Daniel, you have the prince of Persia that prevented him from coming, and then the angel was going off to battle the prince of Greece. And so you've got all these territorial spirits. You've got all these principalities and powers and spirits of the air, and they have actually been given rule over the other nations. So if you go to every different nation in the world, there is a ruling angel, and not a good one, that governs that land. And that's why you have the spiritual stuff that you have going on. But Yahweh rules over Israel, and that is his possession and his inheritance. And so this really gives us insight into kind of what's going on behind the scenes in the spiritual warfare. And what I'm astounded about is the complete denial of all of this in some quarters, or complete misunderstanding of what spiritual warfare is all about, because spiritual warfare is a real thing. And if anybody has been walking with the Lord for any length of time, you will begin to understand there are forces that work against you that don't like you. And they have been given a certain amount of leeway. I mean, if you look at the whole situation with Job, where God actually allowed Satan to have Adam for a while, even though he was righteous. I mean, what did Job do to deserve this? But it was a testing of his faith. And so every one of these divine beings has a limited amount of authority. Now, they all still need to submit, of course, to God, and he puts limits on those. But when you start dealing with the spiritual realm, and when you actually begin to enter into that territory and begin to understand it and do spiritual warfare, it's much more complex than we originally would like to think. And with more and more occultic activity and new age stuff that's happening these days, they're giving these beings more power, because whatever gets the most worship has the most power. So we got to be so aware and so alert of what's happening out there. But I love this passage. And it was, Moses says in this song, and it would be neat to see this entire passage of scripture put to music again. But he says that, after I'm gone, you were rebellious with me when I was with you. How much more so after I'm gone and the restraints are taken off? And, of course, that was prophesying what Israel was going to do. But he says that in the song that God is actually going to come back. God is going to redeem you back again. Yes, he's going to allow you to experience the consequences of your rebellion, your sin. You're going to have to go dwell in another country. He's going to provoke you, it says in verse 17 or verse 21, with a nation that is not a nation, speaking of the Gentiles that would come into the commonwealth of Israel and the kingdom that would provoke Israel to jealousy. That's what Paul is referring to in Romans 11:11. But that God never forsook Israel, and that he is still their champion, and they are still the apple of his eye. And so when we are proclaiming the gospel to Jewish people, we're inviting them to come back home to their own heritage. We're inviting them to come back to the family and to the Father that wants to see them restored and returned. And really, that's what this time of season is all about. It's restoration. It's performing teshuvah. It's returning back to God. And we're praying diligently that we would see Israel do that.
Yeah, that's good. Darryl, you've got my mind just churning. That was really, really interesting. I had not heard that before regarding the that perspective coming out of this passage, and about those powers that have been put in charge of the nations. It made me think. I understand the principle of that. It's just the coming out of that passage and seeing how he tied those dots together. That was very interesting. So it takes me back to Ephesians chapter 6, where it says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might. Put on the full armor of God, that you may be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, and against the rulers, the world forces of this darkness, and against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. And so I was just thinking about some of the things that we have come to understand in that spiritual warfare. And we have been given a certain level of authority in Yeshua to battle against certain forces. And but there are levels of forces that we are not allowed to take on unless a special anointing has been given to us to do that. And I'll give you an example. We have the right with an individual, with ourselves, our everyday circumstance with the people we encounter to deal with things in the spiritual realm, with deliverance, with dealing with demonic attacks and on individuals' lives. And we have authority to take care of those things in that level, in that realm. But when we start looking at these fallen angels, or whatever you want to call them, that are in charge of cities and regions and nations, there's a level there that we've not been given authority to wrestle against. We only have the right to maintain what is within our realm. And if we do start to wrestle against those in a higher level, in our exuberance, sometimes we actually do, we can really open ourselves up to great attacks. And we've seen that here in Amarillo. And because we're stepping out of what our authority is, and we're walking in presumption of what we think we have. And we have to be very, very careful about that we only step into the realm that the Father leads us into.
You know, we've discussed, you probably either I've been reading our minds, or, I mean, we've discussed this exact thing a couple of times on the Chameleon Show on Tuesdays. And we have authority in the first realm, the first heaven. The second heaven is where the angels dwell, and that's the buffer between the kind of that's between the third heaven, where God's throne is, and the first heaven, which is, you know, earth and the sky and everything else. And those angels are powerful, and they've been given authority. Now, when God says go, we have the authority to fight against their influence here in the first heaven. But when you go start poking that thing up there, half the time they don't even know we exist. And all of a sudden you're like this little mouse that's going up to this lion, and you're starting to, you know, beat your chest and everything else. And it looks down as just like, oh, look what we have here. And then you become squished.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we have to be cognizant of. We must be careful about the realms that we're fighting in. And you're exactly right. I want to hear, Mark, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, this is not so much my area of study, and I like to listen to you guys and other people talk about these types of things. But I don't have usually a steady opinion. In listening to Darryl, there were several different points that I remember of having heard before, but so the power thing and the level things, and like what you're talking about in your area, and not to, we need to be able to discern spirits and to be able to recognize where we fall in a certain level or spiritual understanding enough to not only pray about it, but to go against it. And that I've known, you know, most of my life, and most of my prayer career, let's just say. But one of the things that I used to have a show on Lamb Radio that Stephen Morgan and I did, and we went over several aspects, different parts of the Siddur and the Ashkenazi Siddur. And one of the most famous used parts of that is called Master of the Universe. And when you read it, when you pray it, when you understand it, what you get is a fathomable understanding, in that the master of the universe is master over not only the physical world, but the spiritual world at the same time. And a lot of times, because we go by sight and not by spirit, not by understanding, that we forget that we literally are walking in a spiritual world. And if we're going to if we're going to pray over healing, you know, and our bodies and other people's bodies and their situations and everything, usually what we're doing is asking the master of the universe of the physical world to come and be master over whatever we're praying for. But a lot of times we don't take it into the spiritual world and recognize that it's actually a lot of these physical things are physical manifestations of spiritual things. And that is one thing that I think is most important, is to have a cognizant understanding of that, is that a lot of the things that happen in the physical are because of spiritual things that we have counteracted or done wrong or something like that. That would be my only thing. That when Darryl was talking about Elohim too, one of the very first things I learned when walking in the Messianic lifestyle is that word Elohim, which so many people misuse as God, one of God's names or one of God's aspects or something like that. When in fact, even in Torah especially, it does refer, or the prophets and the writings actually especially, it does refer to other gods. And so we need to recognize those things and be aware of them. Study to show yourself approved. Don't misuse words and expressions and stuff, which is so often done in the Messianic lifestyle.
Yeah, right. So, Darryl, one of the things that you were talking about and kind of going along with this kind of this overall theme that we're talking is, I'm thinking about Daniel and the time that he was praying for 21 days. He was praying and fasting, and it was then that Gabriel came and brought the message to him. And that message that Gabriel said is that I was stopped by the Prince of Persia, essentially, until Michael came. He delivered the message, and then he went back to fight. So there's something about our prayers that when we pray, and if we're going to affect that second heavens, it's not that we don't fight against those spiritual realms. It's the fact that we're praying and we're fasting that the Father sends help through the angelic powers. So when we're needing to see breakthrough within our cities, and there's a dominion that's over a city that needs to be broken, we're not taking that dominion on. We're fasting and praying and asking the Father to send help.
And this is exactly what's happening here in Peterborough on Wednesday, is that we are doing a city taking. And God has been leading us. We've been coordinating and organizing with various people and strategy and how to do it. But all we're going to be doing is showing up to exactly the points where God said, and we're going to be making declarations. We're going to be commanding in the name of Yeshua that these things leave. And there's going to be a whole lot of repentance going on, too, for the sins that have invited these wicked spirits into the city and given them the power and authority. Revival breaks out when there's repentance and holiness.
Right. So this is all really important. That's very good. I really appreciate this discussion you brought with us today, Darryl. We're going to move on to our next segment right now, because I want to make sure we get this point in, because it really relates to the same type of thing in spiritual warfare. But I want to make sure we've got time to discuss the Brit Hadashah here in just a little bit. And this brings into another element. I think it ties in with powers and principalities. And this report and this article, I'm going to copy it over and put it over into the chat room so y'all can look it up. I saw multiple versions of this out there, and this is from newswars.com, and the title of it is an exclusive. This was just published yesterday. Trump activates U.S. Marine reserves for emergency within the United States to stop illegal coup. And as y'all know, there's been all sorts of different things. If you've been listening to any of the mainstream media, you've been listening to certain members of Congress and in the Senate, there have been people coming up that have actually been talking about not only just removing President Trump, as they've been doing for the last 3 years, ongoing every single day, but they're actually going to the thing of he needs to be arrested, thrown in jail. Then jail or prison is not enough. He needs to be put in solitary confinement. Someone needs to stab him in the back with a shiv. There's all sorts of different things. There's horrible, horrible things that they're talking about with President Trump and wanting to get him out of office. They're actually elevating it to a new level. And so President Trump sees a lot more from the intelligence world that's even gets out in the airways. And this is part of what's actually getting out. And I've also understand that President Trump was actually removed from the White House for his protection and taken to a location nobody knows of, just for to protect him. It says here the orders say emergency will come with little warning, cites threats within the homeland, and going on, it says, in an unprecedented move, President Trump has activated the U.S. Marine Reserves to respond to an emergency within the United States, citing threats to the homeland. And Alex Jones actually has a really good analysis on it. He's been one of the most demonized media voices out there, because if they can silence his voice, they can silence everybody else. And so he actually has a really good analysis. You can click on a link from that website. On Infowars.com, or you can see it on Infowars.com. You can see it over at whatever I got this, Newswars.com as well. And it says the main body of the following report first appeared at naturalnews.com, who's working with Infowars on this earth-shaking report. And it goes on, breaking news update concerning a directive involving the United States Marine Corps reserve units via MAR admins number 550/19. That's the Marine Administration. And it was authorized by the Brigadier General Daniel L. Shipley, Director of Manpower Plans and Policy. And notably that General Shipley was nominated by President Trump for the rank of Major General, according to a January 16, 2019 Defense Gov Press announcement, before serving in his current role. Going on, it says the new order summarized as Marines ordered to active duty ISO defense support of civil authorities. Many observers are concerned that with Democrats like Representative Tlaib openly talking about which prisons to use for imprisoning President Trump and his cabinet, and with Hillary Clinton positioning herself to run for president. Yes, she is positioning herself, by the way. And with the IG's FISA abuses report set to drop in a few weeks, the deep state Democrats have reached a point of desperation where they may attempt to initiate a hot coup, which is kinetic engagement, arrest, or execution of the president and his cabinet to avoid going to prison themselves. The entire CIA-run deep state media, including the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, etc., are all in on the effort and now gaslighting the entire nation with ginned up whistleblower schemes that are wholesale fabrications. And Alex Jones reminds us that Trump has long planned to activate the U.S. Marines to stop an illegal coup. Now, it was just last week or the week before that there was one conservative voice, Rush Limbaugh, actually said that we are in a cold coup. And if you notice, this attempt has been going on since the very beginning. Impeach Trump, impeach Trump, impeach Trump. That's all they've been saying. It's been a cold coup. It is actually a cold civil war, I think is what the term was. And going on, it says, I spoke on the phone with Alex Jones today about his breaking news, and he told me I talked to a high-level Trump confidant concerning what Trump would do if the deep state attempted an illegal coup. Trump said that they would call out the Marines and surround the White House, then legally and lawfully pursue the originators of the criminal coup. This high-level confidant is someone who's very close to the president and who is familiar with the president's plans for how to deal with any attempts by the deep state to carry out an illegal coup attempt. And we urge all lawful pro-America organizations and individuals to prepare to defend your president against an illegal coup attempt in the coming weeks or months. Details of the military order to U.S. Marines threats to or in the homeland will come with little or no warning. Does the following order describe an activation of U.S. Marines reserve units to prepare for an anticipated hot coup attempt against our president? While some might downplay the order as a routine personnel organization directive, you can read the highlights here and decide for yourself. And the highlights, and it goes on, and it actually talks about it prints out the full order and directive. So this is truly a war and a battle against powers and principalities. This is really, truly, if you actually look at it, and I don't know about you guys, but whenever I hear the name, and just, this is my opinion, whenever I hear Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Representative Tlaib, and any number of people that you could put in that group, my skin crawls. Literally, it just, I have a wall and a defense of saying this is the voice of evil that's coming out. Even all the way to the point of the past President Barack Obama. I could not ever stay in the same room where President Obama may be coming through the speakers. I would turn it off, change the channel, whatever. My skin, I just can't do it. Can't listen to it because it is just sheer evil. It's lies. And in my opinion, that now has taken a crescendo that they're really seriously going after the president because nothing works. Nothing is sticking. Every plan, every fabrication, every lie, every bit of falsehood that they have been drumming up is not working. And so they're elevating it according to these articles and these news reports. And from multiple sources beyond this, it is reaching new heights like we haven't seen before. It's an incredible reality that we're living in right now, and we're seeing this. Where if you're like me, I'm sitting in my home in Amarillo, Texas, going, I don't know what to do other than build awareness, let people know, be aware what's going on. Because if President Trump would be removed from office, then the whole face of this nation will change. They will be imprisoning people for speaking out. They're going to take away our First and Second Amendment rights. They're going to be, it's going to be wholesale murder. We've seen the wholesale murder of the babies, and even using the aborted babies that survive and keeping them for their body parts and wholesaling those. We've seen all sorts of horrors that have been going on, and we're going to just see an increase if this whole coup attempt were to work out. Now, I'm not trying to fearmonger. I just want to let everybody aware that this is truly a war. It is a battle, and we are the people that can stop the hand of the evil that is working. It is we the people that can pray, and actually, what you were saying that y'all are doing in your own town there, Darryl, is we need to be a people that are whether we're gathering or whether we're in our own homes doing this, that we are praying for our nation like never before, repenting, asking the Father for a move of His Spirit that will quench this work of evil, this wave of darkness that is trying to overtake this nation. And with all, literally, President Trump isn't perfect, but the reforms that he has made for our nation have been outstanding past any other president in my lifetime. So anyway, I just want to lay that on the line and get your thoughts on it. Darryl, first off, what are your thoughts?
Kitty bar the door.
Yeah. As a Canadian, from your perspective, I mean, the way, where America goes, the world goes.
Oh yeah. And, with Trump pulling out of Syria, they're abandoning the Kurds because now the Turks are going to go in and annihilate them. And it's just, it's a monkey barrel show out there. And President Trump was elected in order to give the United States one last chance before judgment came. And it has failed miserably. You've now got the most, the biggest star in the world is this Greta, whatever her name is, out of Sweden, this autistic girl with who's banging the drum about climate change and everything else. And you've got Extinction Rebellion protests happening in London. By the way, Greta Thunberg, I think her name is, I can't remember exactly. Her parents are known members of Antifa. So, the there's no discernment that's left in the world. Everybody's bought the narrative. The communist objective of overtaking the media and controlling the narrative in the United States has, for the most part, won. And while we do have Alex Jones, we do have Dave Hodges, we do have Steve Quayle, we do have various people in the independent media, they've been shut down. Their reach is very limited, and the people don't want to know the truth. And so what you have with President Trump fighting for his political and physical life, I mean, they will kill him if they get the chance. They haven't been able to yet. The only thing that's keeping Trump alive and keeping his presidency alive is Almighty God himself. And, you know, fortunately, we serve the Most High, we serve the Creator, and he will be the one to determine how long Trump is there. And all attempts and all efforts of the enemy to overthrow what he is putting into place will fail until he decides to pull, because John Kennedy tried the same thing. He tried to dismantle the CIA, and he tried to dismantle the Federal Reserve, and they blew his head off for it. So evil is on the rise, and we see that in Habakkuk chapter 1, where Habakkuk is complaining to God. He says that destruction and violence are before me, strife exists and tensions arise. The law is ignored, justice never upheld, the wicked surround the righteous. And then God says, yeah, I know, and I'm sending in the Chaldeans to deal with it. So you had a foreign invasion to deal with iniquity in Israel, in Judah, and now you're going to have the same thing in the United States. You've got the United Nations that is pretty much everywhere. They're strategically set up in the U.S. It's a mess.
And the only, right there, you know, Darryl, just want to, so everybody understands, there's from military sources, intelligence sources, there's somewhere from 750,000 to 1.2 million UN troops already in the United States. That's a fact. So you know, they are everywhere.
And a lot of them are Chinese and Russian.
Yes.
So the U.S. is pretty much at war with right now anyway.
Yes.
We're living in the last days. And so however long Trump hangs on for, whether he is able to make it to the end of his first term, whether he somehow or another does get a second term, whether Hillary is going to be anointed, whether Barack Obama is revealed as the Antichrist, all of these things they're wonderful for speculation. But the most important thing for all of us is we have to focus on what the Father has put before us right here, right now. And so tomorrow I've got to run off to Toronto because Marvin, the 85-year-old Jewish man who accepted the Lord a few weeks ago, is doing an interview, and he's asked me to be there for that. So that's my assignment tomorrow. I don't have to worry about geopolitical, global stuff and everything else. I got to focus on the people that God has put before me. I got to make sure that I'm walking close with him. I got to make sure that I'm, during these 10 days of Av, performing Teshuvah, and that on Yom Kippur, on Wednesday, that we are fasting, praying, repenting, but also my assignment Wednesday is city taking. That's all I know. All the other stuff, I'll leave to the expert sitting up there and having the CEO of this whole thing.
Yeah. You know, that's some really, really good points. We are really in that season. What an opportunity. And for us as believers, and I'm just going to have to say, you know, whether we're Messianic, Hebrew roots believers, whether we're not, but we're believers in Yeshua the Messiah, it is our sole responsibility to be that force to stop the evil and to really and really dig in, especially during this time of the season where we see traditionally and scripturally that it is the time that the Father is looking upon the earth, and the books are open. So, Mark, what are your thoughts? You're muted, Mark.
Oh yeah. I listened to all that you and Sandi are doing, and all that Darryl's doing, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm the slacker. I'm not doing anything. No, it's not true. I mean, I do maintain the Lamb Network, and I'm trying to work in the local community as much as I can. And I've only just begun there. And so, because I'm so new here and I got to figure out how it all works, no man goes into battle without first counting the cost.
Sure.
And each one of us need to know that. Darryl has been in his community for quite some time, and he knows the cost. He knows everything, well, as much as he needs to know to pursue the different aspects of what he's doing, and extremely commendable. And still to hold services on Sabbath and give an amazing report, all this type of thing. And you and Sandi, with all that you do to make sure not only your community is taken care of, but to invite people from all over to come and experience what needs to be done with the Lord. As far as the, this does play into the coup you're talking about. To me, since 6 months before, since the day that Trump decided to run for office, or made it public that he was running for office, let's put it that way, we have had a civil war in the United States. I mean, on that basis, it is almost, and in every aspect, almost completely equally balanced. And we constantly hear stories of people from the Democratic side coming over to the Republican side and vice versa. And it almost seems to switch over because people only look at what's on the surface. Once again, they're not looking at the spiritual battle that's there. And there's a spiritual battle in that civil war in the same way as there is a physical battle going on. And I think that that's ideal to what we're doing in our local communities. All three of us are leaders in our community. And that's what's important is that personally, I can't go to Africa. I can't go, and Darryl is pretty soon. And I think that is amazing to be able to take care of the things that he's taking care of. But I can't go to different places and take care of those things. But Lamb Radio is my international ministry, so I'm doing what I can. And if we're not pursuing that, even as somebody that's not leaders in their community, they still need to be involved in that and involved in the politics of our president, to be able to support him and know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on and you're not following this kind of stuff, then you're the slacker. So that's the only place I can go. I don't see a coup. But I don't know enough about all of that. But I don't see that it's going to come down to that. That's about as radical as you can possibly get.
And yeah. I could honestly see God just striking some of these people dead in their tracks.
Yeah.
He did that. He did that in the book of Ezekiel with the Pashur, the priest.
Well, in what you just said, people that say, where are all these wonders and miracles and these things like what you just mentioned there, and the Ananias and Sapphira, which you mentioned in your commentary last Sabbath, where is all that today? How do you know that isn't going on today? There are things happening all over the world where people are being struck down and nobody knows why. Or, they do know why, but how do we know it wasn't God passing judgment on different things that are going on? Look at the mass things that are happening around the world. How do you know these are the same wonders and miracles that happened in the prophets and the writings. You don't. And so we have to recognize that God is still alive and still thriving in our world today as it is. This is his planet. So that's the way I look at it. And as far as the coup is concerned, you go ahead and try to take it over. I could see death on the doorstep of the White House. Anyway.
Yeah. And it's a real critical time because when there's such infighting going on, and really the level of it is not just the left and right, arguing about issues. This has been truly a fight over a legitimately elected president. And it's been going on. Never in our history in the United States have we seen this. And I heard one commentary that said that had it been General Washington, where someone had said that they should stab him in the back, he would have sent his military officers to have that person immediately arrested and thrown into prison.
Lincoln would have killed him. And yeah. Lincoln did, as a matter of fact. There were several people put to death in the northern part of the United States for opposing him. That's something you don't read in your history books, but it's there.
Yeah. And President Trump has been very careful so that he doesn't come across, because they are accusing him of being the big, bad authoritarian. He's been being very careful not to come across that way, but he has every right to actually take authority. And every one of those talking heads that are saying this, all of those ex-CIA people that CNN hires to be the expert analysis, so you just know where they're coming from. They're giving us a story in order to control the narrative, along with the other news media outlets. And the CIA actually funds the Washington Post, so another voice to create a propaganda effect. So the one of the reports also is that it is the whole operation, which, by the way, John Brennan still has access to. He has full security access still, and he's the former CIA head. And he was supposed to have had that removed, but because of deep state assets within the CIA, they've not blocked him. So he's still having access. There's all sorts of different things that have been going on, and people haven't seen this, but it's been truly all been playing in the background to remove President Trump. And so this is really a big deal. And we need to be praying for our nation. In fact, I think we need to pray right now, because I just want to, it's really a big deal. Father, we just come before you in the name of Yeshua, that you would protect President Trump, that this constitutional republic that you gave us, that you would protect it as it was originally designed, which brought freedoms that the world looks and longs to have, even within their own nation. That, Father, that the evil would be uprooted. Father, truly, that the swamp would be drained. And that, Father, that there would be that countermeasures against what the deep state has been doing are all set in place in order to take out those who would act with sedition and treason and unlawfully within this nation. We just give it to you, Father, to hold back the darkness and release and show forth your light and your glory for the sake of the people of this nation and the world, in the name of Yeshua. Well, Mark, I hope you're not too disappointed, but we only have 4 minutes for the Brit Hadashah, which really doesn't give us time to touch it.
Actually, if you'll read the Brit Hadashah, John 6:26 through 35, very short portion. I've already talked about it several times. I've actually mentioned exactly what I was going to say several times, especially in the Torah part of the show. It followed right along. So
yeah,
there you go. That's the shortest Brit Hadashah teaching that's ever been done. Go back and listen to the rest of the show to get my teaching.
There you go. So read the Torah portion, which is, again, John 6:26 through 35, where ultimately Yeshua finally says, I am the bread of life. This is going back to what we talked about earlier, which I chose as the verse of the day. I am the bread of life, and he who comes to me shall not hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. This is one of those things. I mean, we long to see the return of Messiah. But here's how I see it is the Messiah never left. He is living. He's active. He's working within our lives. He is, though we may not see him visibly, his appearance and his presence is made known to all who call upon his name. And by no other name can any man be saved, but by the name of Yeshua. So awesome. Well, some really good discussion today. I really appreciate y'all's input. Today had a little fun. Y'all as we wrap things up, if you like the show, share it on your social media. Let people know what's going on here on Messianic Lamb Radio, and get the word out.
By the way, Darryl and I are going to do the show next week.
Oh, awesome.
Aren't we, Darryl?
We are.
Okay, so let me see here. We're doing it next week at 14th and also the 21st. We're going to do it 2 weeks in a row. And we're going to do, how come I didn't have this up and ready? Oh, darn it. We're also, let me see. Let me get this up for you real quick before we go here. Darryl and I are going to do the War Room on the 17th. We're going to do Monday Reason on the 14th and the 21st. And we're going to do Sandi Let Us Reason Together show on the 20th. So, yeah, we're going to be around, and we're going to invite people to come in and join us and be radical. And I'm going to be radical, and Darryl is just going to be the way Darryl is.
Good. Darryl, we don't want you any other way.
You ain't going to get me any other way.
He's a little country and I'm a little rock and roll.
There you go. Well, I'm glad. So we're going to have continuous live broadcasts throughout the time of Sukkot and the Feast of Tabernacles, and I'm glad to hear that. Sandi and I will be with our congregation and those that will be joining us up in Lake Paladuro, which is a little ways away from Amarillo, up in the northern panhandle of Texas. And we're going to be celebrating in the season of our joy. So there you go. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to enjoy that. We'll have stories and testimonies when we come back, let y'all know. And we're just excited to have this time to be able to participate with that. So, well, hallelujah. Well, that ends the show right now. As I said, give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. Share the link, and I will be back here in a couple weeks, y'all willing, and stay tuned with the great things happening on Messianic Lamb Radio. So until the next time, shalom. It's